transformation occurs. But the phone just, there we go. Okay. So we were purpose-driven. We were focused on education, but it really was about license to operate, and I'll talk more about that here in just a second. Where you ultimately get to is this transformation, social innovation. You engage to make a lasting difference. It's recognizing that there's something that you have as a business that can impact society in a positive way. If you collaborate and you work with NGOs and you look at your capabilities of your people and the resources of your company and you apply it in a smart way, you can actually transform a particular challenge. And that's what I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about today, is how do you move into that transformation, and what does that look like? Well, the Millennium Development Goals, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here because I have a limited amount of time. There's been great progress since the Millennium Development Goals were put in place. The UN's leadership with business and with global NGOs has been amazing. And there's been significant success. And they're in the process now of putting together the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. So 2015 will be on us before we know it, and it'll be time to move on to the next goals. While there's been tremendous success, anybody here believe we're actually finished? No? No, I don't think we're finished. We got to go beyond. And, you know, everything in the world is this way. It's easier to get wins early on. But as you get to that smaller number, it becomes harder and harder to achieve impact. I don't believe that we can ultimately solve the global challenges by doing business the way that we've done business. It can't just be about corporations donating. And corporations, I saw a number around $15 billion a year. I think the Conference Board, that's a number that they use. That's a tremendous amount of money. But money alone does not solve the problems. Money is easy. You write a check, you send it. That's easy. It's necessary. So I don't want to say that it's not necessary, because it is necessary. But we can do more, and if we're going to actually solve these global challenges that we face in this world, we're going to have to do something more. So I have this slide that I created about social innovation, and I say opportunity demands innovation. You could actually say that challenges demand innovation, but I'm going to think of it as an opportunity, because it is a societal opportunity and it is a business opportunity. I work for a business. It's important that there's a business opportunity as well, not just society. It's both. It's that Michael Porter notion of shared value. So social innovation requires some different things. Right? It does require a real commitment. Again, it's not just writing a check, it's actually investing of yourself to solve the challenge. You have to collaborate. You can't do it alone. The days of businesses thinking that they're going to tackle some challenge and they're going to do it by their own and they're going to build their brand, that's a short-sighted way of thinking. So it's important that you collaborate. It's got to be catalytic, it's got to be transformational, and these two last words are important. It needs to be sustainable and it needs to be scalable. So we need to find innovation that's actually sustainable and scalable, and that's the way that we're going to achieve lasting results. There's still tremendous need out there. Education, there's no doubt. Environment, girls and women, you saw the very moving trailer for the movie. We'll see the movie tomorrow. Healthcare, still too many people in this world who don't even have close to adequate health care. Agriculture. We produce enough food to feed everybody in the world. But there's about 850 million people who are starving. Okay, so we produce enough food, can't get it to them. It's a great opportunity for social innovation. Our vision when I joined Intel, be the building block, and this isn't the exact words, but it's pretty close. And Philip, you may recognize this, but in our conversations we were having earlier, but be the building block supplier for the personal computing industry. Does that make anybody feel warm and good? I can tell you this was an incredibly effective business strategy. Intel was completely focused on winning this space and driving a business. It worked from a business standpoint beautifully. Awesome business strategy. Our vision today is this decade we'll create and extend computing technology to connect and enrich the lives of every person on Earth. Does that feel a little better? Okay. The same fundamentals that we had in winning and being the building block supplier are still there. It's a broader industry. It's not just a PC, it's multiple devices and the way that we're connected. But there's a real recognition today that we're doing this for a reason. We're doing it to enrich the lives of people on Earth. So when you join Intel, you become an engineer, wherever you are, you have this recognition that your work you're doing is having a substantial impact on society. All right, let me run through a couple examples. And what I'll ask you as we go through this, is this licensed to operate or is this social innovation? All right, here's a map of Intel's education programs in 1997. Is that global? Well, we've got locations around the world. What this is actually a map of where our wafer fabrication and assembly test facilities were in 1997. And that's where we did our education programs. We invested in our local education institutions. It helped us develop a pipeline for our workforce. It made their neighbors liked us. We did it because our founders were also, I say it was purpose-driven. They were very, very focused on education and the value of education. They were highly educated individuals. Okay, this was our strategy in 1997. And I told you, you build efficiencies. We got really good at running these education programs at these different sites, but we weren't connected. We started sharing, we became more efficient, we realized that there was an opportunity to do something bigger. We decided we were going to train 10 million teachers around the world on how to use technology in the classroom. We started creating technology specific for the classroom, like the Classmate PC, which was designed for emerging economies. But still, those were all individual tactics that were taking place, and they really go back to being sort of a site-based education strategy. So we recognized that this wasn't going to have the sort of innovation to drive systemic change. We had to do something else. So we came up with this education transformation wheel that's in front of you, and it may be hard to read. But it was our commitment to work with governments around the world to look at overall how education is delivered. It's bigger than just Intel technology or any technology. It includes curriculum assessment, professional development, research and evaluation, sustainable resourcing. All of that was part of transforming the way education was done in countries around the world. So we committed to working with governments and have touched over 50 governments, maybe even more than that, and looking at how you transform the way education is taught. So this was a social innovation that was focused on transforming the entire ecosystem. So very broad-based. All right, so let me ask you, and so if you want to see the impact, this is where Intel is in 2013. Slightly different map, hard to read, but we're in over 70 countries in the world now delivering education programs, and I say trained all those teachers, and then have education transformation strategies in place with somewhere in plus side of 50 governments around the world. Okay? All right, so is this social innovation or is this licensed to operate? Right? This is, and I won't make y'all answer, it's early in the morning. Right? This is licensed to operate. This is thinking about CSR in the old way. This is licensed to operate. Good, but you can do better. This is social innovation. This is the way to think outside the box and drive sort of systemic change. Okay, let's look at our volunteerism. I can't expect that you'll be able to read everything that's on this slide, but we've been getting our employees, we've been volunteering going back to 1995. In 2012, we had 1.2 million volunteer hours. We matched that volunteer hours with cash grants that were somewhere around $10 million. So when our employees go work, volunteer at a community, we match it with a cash grant. Okay? significant volunteer program. But again, it's relying on where our employees live, where we have facilities. We're invested in those local communities, and we're volunteering at a very high rate. Okay? We've had a new program for 3 or 4 years. It's called the Intel Education Service Corps. The Intel Education Service Corps is a different model of volunteering. Here we work with an NGO. We put a technology plan in place with an NGO. They purchase Intel technology. We send Intel employees. They have months of training, and then we send them to the field. They actually get on the ground, spend several weeks implementing that technology solution. So you have a problem that exists. There's a NGO that's focused on that particular problem. We create a technology solution. That technology solution is purchased. Intel employees then volunteer their time. We've done these projects in 16 countries, and the number that's on there is actually expanded. So if you look at these two, let me do this. So just as there's a continuum of CSR, there's also this sort of continuum of volunteering. And ultimately, it's my belief that you want to shift things as much as you can into high-impact, skills-based volunteering. It doesn't mean you don't do the other things. Parks still need to be cleaned. Right? Those sort of hands-on volunteering stuff still necessary. But what is wrong, if you look at the bottom chart, only 1% of Intel's volunteer time fell into that high-impact, skills-based volunteering. Right, that percentage is not good. We need to make that better. I'm very proud of the 1.2 million hours, but we can do better. We can have more impact. So if I ask you, so this Intel involved, first light, is that licensed to operate, or is that social innovation? It's kind of a mix, but it really comes out of a license to operate model. We have our employees. Let's get our employees engaged in our local community, and that way our local community likes us, and we protect our license to operate. Is this Intel Education Service Corps licensed to operate, or is it social innovation? This is social innovation. It has nothing to do with where we have locations. It's reaching out and finding and defining a challenge and coming up with a technology solution and doing it from a market-based solution, but engaging our employees. Okay, we saw the film on girls and women. Intel's been investing in opportunities for girls and women for years. That includes digital inclusion programs, broader access to education. We've done some things in pathfinding platforms, but most of our focus has been on digital inclusion. In programs like Easy Steps and Intel Learn, Anjan, we've touched probably 2 million girls, and that may be too high of a number, but a significant number of girls and women through those digital inclusion. Now, digital inclusion is social innovation, right? You're finding a solution to a problem. But again, over the years, a lot of our programs were focused on engaging our employees in local issues. We decided to do some research. It's important when you think about social innovation that you do research and you truly understand the challenge. There's a women's internet gap, a significant gap of women in emerging economies that are online versus men. You can see the numbers for the different regions. In South Asia, it's 33%, as an example. Overall, it's 23% fewer women, and that represents a number of about 200 million. So we've